I've been reviewing solar generators on this channel for years, and at this point I've tested just about every unit out there. Over time, the market has exploded with options, more brands, more features, and a lot more noise. And if you're just starting to shop for one, it can feel overwhelming. And chances are you're asking the same questions I hear all the time. Which one should I buy? What's the best option for a tight budget? And will it power my refrigerator or whatever electrical device? We're going to answer all those questions and a whole lot more. And you're definitely going to want to stick around to the end, as we're going to be giving away one of these units. I've made plenty of videos over the years comparing different solar generators, but this one's different. Instead of dumping specs and features on you, the goal is to guide you, showing you what these units are capable of and how to pick the right one for you. I want to help you understand what actually matters before you spend your money. We're going to walk you through a clear framework and give you the tools that you need to make an informed decision. And by the end of this video, you're going to be able to build a scalable backup plan that fits your life, not your neighbors, not some influencers, but yours. So let's get started. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Now, solar generators are a great choice for backup power. They let you stay powered for a prolonged period of time by connecting to solar panels, so you're not dependent on gas or propane when the grid goes down, like with traditional generators. Now, this video is going to examine these options from the perspective of emergency backup. In this past January, I went to CES in Las Vegas, and I would say that there weren't any major revolutionary advancements in the solar generator space. We're at a point now where making the right choice, not the flashiest one, is what matters most. So in this video, we're going to walk you through several different products, from the small, portable options all the way to full-scale home backup systems. And by the end, you're going to understand what features matter most and how to pick the unit that fits your life for your specific needs. So here's what we're going to cover in this video, along with timestamps if you want to jump around to the various sections. How to determine your needs. I'm going to encourage you to start here. This is going to enable you to determine exactly what you absolutely need to power if the grid goes down. Next, we'll go to understanding solar generators. I'm going to walk you through all the specs of these units. And when you look at these online, the manufacturers are going to list capacity, output, DC input, AC output, and so many other variables. But what do these values tell you? I'll help you understand that. Next, we'll look at actual use case demonstrations. I'm going to walk you through showing you practically what different units of different sizes can do. And by showing this to you, you're going to have a much better understanding of what they can power. Then we'll go over cost versus capability. What can you realistically power at each price point? What will a larger, more expensive unit provide you versus an entry-level unit? Then we'll discuss what can I power with these. I built a calculator that will demonstrate how to input the items that you want to power and show you whether these units can power those devices and for how long. And then I'll finish by trying to answer the question, what would I recommend? I'm going to wrap all this up by showing you how I've used the various models and what I've learned from practical experience. And I'm going to try to summarize this as much as possible. Plus, I'll announce a giveaway at the end as well. Now, by the way, we're going to be covering quite a lot in this video. And again, I'm going to be putting links to everything down below. It's also worth mentioning that the units that we're going to cover in this video are on sale on Amazon, and I'll also link to all of those below. So let's get to it. How to determine your needs. Now, before we get into discussing how to understand specs on these models, I want you to pause and really think about this question. What do you absolutely need to power if the grid goes down? That one question is going to shape everything else. And if you're not clear on your answer, it's easy to buy the wrong unit or overspend on something that doesn't really fit your situation. And if you're not sure where to start, that's exactly why I made this video. And at the end, I'm going to walk you through a calculator I built that helps you figure out which unit makes sense for your needs, what it can power, and for how long. But for now, just start thinking about your situation. Ask yourself some simple questions and go ahead and jot them down as we go. Do I need to just keep a phone charged and some lights on? Or do I need to power a fridge for 3 days straight? Do I have any critical devices like medical equipment that has to stay powered no matter what? Does the solar generator need to have the capability to serve as a UPS, ensuring that even if the power goes offline, devices I have plugged into the solar generator will continue to run? Am I in an apartment or in a house? Obviously, apartments require less backup, maybe a router, some lights, and a laptop. But if you're in a house, you might be looking at kitchen appliances, water pump, security system. The needs, they start stacking up. Do I need portability, or am I setting this up as a semi-permanent home solution? If you plan to hit the road, portability is huge. But if you're setting this up for a grid down backup at home, you might lean toward more capacity, which means more weight. Obviously, the biggest question is, what's my budget? And let's be honest here. This one question is probably going to guide about 95% of the decision-making process for most people. A larger budget can open the door to longer run times and higher output. But even a smaller budget can still give you a lot of peace of mind if you know what you need to power. So let's frame this discussion from the perspective of essential home backup, or EHB. You're going to hear that a lot in this video. When it comes to the essential home backup, this is not about powering your entire house like nothing ever happened. It's about identifying the most critical things that you need to get through an outage or an emergency. And for some people, that might just be a fridge and internet. For others, it's keeping medical gear running or making sure a sump pump doesn't fail. But here's a reality. There's always a trade-off. If you want to power a lot, you're going to pay for it. But if you can get by with just the essentials, you can absolutely start small and still be prepared. Now, ultimately, it comes down to your budget, your lifestyle, and your needs. Keep these questions in the back of your mind as we move through the rest of this video. And don't forget, stick around to the end, and I'll walk you through a tool that pulls everything together and really will help you figure out exactly what you need before you spend a dime. Understanding solar generators. I start here because it's important that we quickly explain what these are. Most of us are used to traditional ICE or internal combustion engine generators. You add gasoline, diesel, or propane to fire up the engine to produce electricity. But what is a solar generator, and should it really be called a generator? I'll answer that question in a moment, but let's first point out what these units actually do. In a nutshell, these devices, they harvest energy from the sun through solar panels or from an AC source, and then they store it in batteries. And you can then plug in electrical devices to power them from that stored energy. So in effect, you could provide infinite power with one of these as long as you have available sunlight through solar panels. And these are popular within my community because if properly maintained, you could run these things for years to power your devices. So are they really generators though? Admittedly, solar generator is a bit of a marketing term, but I think you get the general idea. So let's look at the important factors that you need to consider before buying one of these. Now, the first thing is the brand. In the past, I didn't bring this point up, but here's the issue. There are a lot of these companies on the market now, and I've been offered large sums of money to promote new off-brand units, and I don't because I've seen companies, they'll pop up with large marketing budgets and deliver a piece of junk product. And I've seen other channels promote those exact same products because the payout was huge. But the problem is, and I've seen this happen, that the company will either deliver a subpar product or just go out of business. And then you get stuck with a paperweight when it inevitably fails. Now, additionally, if a disaster occurs and you're relying on this and it's faulty, it's not going to be helpful, even though the company may offer a warranty. And as such, I would recommend sticking with the reputable brands that we're going to link to in the spreadsheet and also in the description section because they're established. We've worked with them and we trust them and that they're going to take care of their customers. And lastly, be careful of new companies on crowdfunding websites. They may be at a great price, but you take a considerable risk. So let's discuss capacity. Capacity simply refers to the amount of power that one of these devices can store. This unit is often listed as watt hours. And let me explain this quickly to you in very practical terms. A watt is just a unit of power. I've got a few devices here in front of me to help us understand this practically. On the side of most electrical devices, if you look closely, you're going to see the watts that it requires to operate the device. For example, this light bulb here on the side requires 9 watts. And this laptop charger here on the side has 45 watts written. Now, this heat gun, this requires 1800 watts, which is quite a lot. And for this example, let's just say I need to power my laptop and the light bulb. The light bulb needs 9 watts. And again, remember the laptop charger pulls 45 watts. So if we were to add 9 plus 45, we would get 54. Okay, so what can I do with that number? If I were to leave these devices on, my light bulb and the laptop charger, for 1 hour, they would use 54 watt hours of the battery's capacity. See what I did there? 9 plus 45 equals 54. Again, powering these for 1 hour would use 54 watt hours. So let's apply this information to the solar generator that I've got here in front of me. This Jackery 1000 has a capacity of approximately 1000 watt hours. If we were to divide the capacity of this device's battery, 1000, by the number of watts needed to power these devices for 1 hour, which is 54, we would get 18.51. Now this means that we could output 54 watts continuously for about 18.51 hours. It's really that simple. Now there are a few other factors that we'll discuss momentarily that impact the total output, namely efficiency. However, if you grasp this initial concept, you're doing great. Next, let's discuss output capability. This refers to how much this device can output. There are 3 values that you'll typically see listed in the specs on these units. You'll see continuous, surge, and UPS or EPS. So let's start with the first element, continuous output. This value indicates the maximum number of watts that the system can continuously deliver. Now in front of me, I have the Jackery 2000 version 2, and according to the specs on this unit, it can output 2200 watts continuously. If we were to plug in multiple devices that can draw more than 2200 watts, it's going to turn off. For example, if we plugged in this heat gun, which when turned on all the way up draws 1800 watts, and again, we can see it written here on the side, the solar generator could power it until the battery was completely depleted. Now, I don't recommend running these devices at 100% output continually, as this will eventually lead to premature battery degradation over time. Think about it like your car. If you were to run your car all day at the maximum RPM, you'd burn up your engine pretty quickly. The same principle applies to these devices. Ideally, you want to run them at around 50 to 70% of what the manufacturers list as the maximum. Again, since this Jackery 2000 version 2 is rated for 2200 watts of output, I would plan on pushing it really no more than about 1100 watts on a regular basis. And we're going to discuss this principle a bit more later in the video when I walk you through our spreadsheet. Now regarding surge, some devices, they draw a lot of power when you start them up. Think about things like fans, refrigerators, or saws, because all of those, they have a motor. And when you start those devices up, you're going to see a momentary spike in the power consumption to get the motor moving. And then what will happen is it will settle down to continuous watts usage, which we discussed in the previous point. So why is it important to understand this surge value? This Jackery 2000 version 2 has a surge capacity of 4,400 watts. And if you plug in a device with a higher surge requirement than 4,400 watts, then it's going to cause this Jackery to trip a circuit internally, which you can reset when you restart it. Now, the last output consideration is UPS or EPS. UPS just stands for uninterruptible power supply, and EPS stands for emergency power supply. Some of these devices, they have these options. So what is UPS or EPS in practical terms? If you have a device plugged into your home's wall socket and the power goes out, the device is immediately going to stop working. To get around this, you can plug your device into these solar generators and then plug the solar generator into the wall socket. So if the power were to go down, the solar generator's batteries would immediately take over and continue providing power to your device that's plugged into the front. Now, if you have a piece of equipment that must continue running if the power goes out without any downtime, let's say a computer or a piece of medical equipment, then having this feature in this device will be important to you. So what's the difference between UPS and EPS? To qualify as UPS, the switchover time has to happen in under 10 milliseconds. For EPS, they can switch over in under 30 milliseconds. All right, let's talk about battery chemistry. Before we discuss this point, I need to explain charge cycles first. Charge cycles refer to the process of charging and discharging a battery, essentially using it. Have you ever noticed that your phone battery doesn't last as long after a year or two of usage? As you charge it and use it each day, it loses its ability to hold as much of a charge as it did when you first bought it. Now with these models, you typically have 2 options. You have lithium ion or lithium iron phosphate. Now lithium ion batteries, they weigh slightly less, but you get fewer charge cycles. Lithium iron phosphate batteries, on the other hand, they will last longer and they can handle a lot more charge cycles, but they're a little heavier, but honestly not by much. Now lithium ion batteries are rated for about 500 charge cycles. Now in contrast, lithium iron phosphate batteries are rated to about 3,500 charge cycles, which means they can be charged and discharged about 7 times more than lithium ion batteries. Again, the weight difference honestly is pretty negligible, so the obvious choice in battery chemistry is lithium iron phosphate. All right, let's look at an example. This Jackery Explorer 300 uses lithium ion batteries. Most new solar generators use lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry. It's becoming rare to see lithium ion batteries anymore, especially in the new models. The industry has switched over because it's a superior battery technology. This Jackery Explorer 300 uses lithium ion batteries. It would be slowly losing its ability to maintain a full charge after being charged and discharged over and over. So let's compare the Jackery 300 to this 1000 version 2 model. This particular unit is rated for almost 1100 watts of capacity. After 3,500 cycles, again, charging, discharging, doing that 3,500 times, it would hold about 880 watts, which is 20% less than 1,100. Now, additionally, lithium iron phosphate batteries, they can handle heat and are more stable than lithium ion batteries. I can no longer really think of a reason to buy a new unit with lithium ion batteries at this point, as most manufacturers have completely transitioned their latest models to lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry. The next feature to consider is expandability. Do you want to expand the capacity of your device in the future by adding more batteries from the manufacturer? Some of the units can actually allow for expansion. Some cannot. If it's important for you to be able to add batteries at a future date, you definitely want to check that option before buying. For example, the Jackery 5000 Plus allows for battery expansion. It's a nice feature to have even if you don't initially opt for the add-on battery. And with the drop in battery prices over the last year, I think it's a smart option to have available if you need it. So now let's look at the charging capability for both solar and AC. This is a very important number to consider when shopping for these devices, as it provides insight into how quickly you can charge them using either solar panels or an AC source or both. The lower the AC or solar charging capability, the longer it's going to take to charge one of these devices. For example, some will only handle about 400 watts of solar input or maybe 1,000 watts of AC input, whereas others can handle 1,200 watts from solar and 1,800 watts of AC input. And these numbers are really important. If you're in a situation where, let's say, maybe the power goes out and you need to charge them from a solar setup or maybe a backup generator, being able to charge them rapidly is going to be important. Another consideration we'll cover this year is the ability to adjust the AC charging speed. Some of the units on the market now allow you to change the AC charging speed in the app, and it really makes a big difference. Consider the emergency scenario where maybe you have a small gas generator that can only output 1,000 watts. If the AC input on the solar generator is 1,800 watts and you can't drop that number down to 1,000 watts or less, then the gas generator won't be able to provide it with the electricity that it would need, as it would be too much for the gas generator to handle. Again, it's these little details that can really make a big difference. All right, let's talk about app connectivity. Some of these units will allow you to connect directly to the solar generator via Bluetooth, while others will allow a Wi-Fi connection. Now, I personally love the Wi-Fi connectivity aspect after playing around with these units for years. For example, if I'm away and trying to power something and I want to turn off the AC or DC output remotely or turn them on, I can do it via the app. If you have an off-grid setup and you want to monitor or control the output capabilities remotely, see how much solar it's pulling in, you can do so with Wi-Fi. Use case demonstrations. All right, let's dive into some hands-on demonstrations so you can actually see what these solar generators are capable of in the real world. We're going to walk you through the 5 tiers of backup power using 5 different units to demonstrate what each one can do, starting with the smallest and then working our way up. I'm going to show you what each of these can realistically do, for how long, and where it fits depending on your specific situation. Again, this is not about which one is best, it's about which one is right for you. Before we jump in, a quick word on power outages. The average US grid downtime is about 5.5 hours, but that number can vary wildly depending on where you live. If you're in Florida, for example, hurricane season can knock out power for days or even weeks. I'm in Southern California, and last January when wildfires hit Los Angeles, they preemptively shut down the grid in parts of my own city, even though we're an hour from Los Angeles, because of high winds and dry conditions. Some of my friends were without power for 3 days in this area. Now, I bring this up because while these systems can certainly provide backup electricity, the real strength lies in being paired with solar panels. Throughout these demonstrations, I'll mention how long each unit can run by itself without solar panels, but you got to keep in mind that with the correct solar setup and a little power management, you can stretch that runtime out much longer. All right, let's go through each of the 5 tiers so you have a clear framework to make sense of it all. Tier 1, 300 watt output. This is great for small devices. This is the Jackery Explorer 300, and it's excellent for light duty use. If you're in an apartment, on the go, or you just need to keep your phone charged during a short power outage, this one's for you. It has a 293 watt hour capacity and a 300 watt AC output, which means it can easily charge phones, tablets, cameras, even a Wi-Fi router. You can plug up to 6 devices at once as long as they're under 300 watt of output. And the whole thing is super lightweight and it's portable. And if you want something simple, affordable, and mobile, this is a great place to start. Now, regarding charging off-grid, it accepts up to 100 watts of solar input, and this would be perfect for someone that just needs something for either camping or to power small electronics if the grid were to go down. It's not going to power much beyond that, but for some, that may be fine. Okay, let's look at the next step up. All right, let's talk about Tier 2, where we have devices that can output about 1,500 watts. This is what I would consider the best value for essential home backup options. So we're looking at, again, the Jackery 1000 version 2. And this is what I would call your starter for home backup. With almost 1,100 watt hours of capacity and a 1,500 watt output capability, you can run your router, laptop, lights, and pretty much everything you need to get through a full workday at home during an outage. Of course, the big question I'll probably get is, can it power a refrigerator? Yes, it actually can. Now, there are several variables, but on average, a modern Energy Star rated refrigerator uses approximately 1 to 1.2 kilowatt hours per day. The Jackery 1000, it has a battery capacity of roughly 1.1 kilowatt hours. So in an ideal condition, it could power a refrigerator for about a day. Now, if you're running it without solar, you can expect your refrigerator, again, to be able to be powered for about 24 hours, depending on how efficient your refrigerator is. Now, having said that, I wouldn't recommend trying to run much else alongside it, as adding more devices would drain the battery much faster. But if you pair this with solar panels, and this unit supports up to 400 watts of solar input, you could potentially keep your refrigerator running indefinitely, as long as you've got clear skies and good sunlight. And with that extra solar input, you'd likely have some power left over for smaller devices like a phone or a laptop. Now, that being said, for remote workers or people in apartments, this is an awesome mid-tier option. So next up is what I would consider Tier 3. These are devices that can output over 2,000 watts of AC. I would kind of consider this the best entry level for essential home backup. Now, here in front of me, I have the Jackery 2000 version 2. A solar generator with similar capabilities is the one I'd recommend for most people getting serious about backup power beyond just a few small things. With nearly 2,100 watt hours of capacity and a 2,200 watt AC output, you can run essential living room items for about up to 2 days or so, depending on usage. Think about things like fans, lights, your Wi-Fi, refrigerator. All these things would be mostly covered as long as you ration the power usage. And this is really kind of the sweet spot for balancing performance and portability. And it charges quickly as well from AC, in about 1.7 hours from empty to full. Since it has a larger battery capacity compared to the previous 1000 unit that we covered in the previous point, you're able to power more things for longer. Again, with solar, this unit accepts up to 400 watts of solar. You're going to be able to expand that timeline of powering devices out even further. And if you're building out your first real home backup plan, a unit with similar capabilities is a solid place to start. All right, let's go up to Tier 4. These are devices that can output more than 3,000 watts of AC. This is what I would kind of consider the best advanced essential home backup option. Now, again, we're stepping into kind of the bigger options here. This is the Jackery HP 3000. And similar units in this range, they start expanding your options of what you can power and for how long. It's got nearly 3,100 watt hours of capacity and outputs up to 3,600 watts with a 7,200 watt surge, which is significant for a unit this size. This is really perfect for covering your kitchen or even running an RV setup for a couple of days. It's also app controlled, which makes monitoring and management super easy, and it's surprisingly compact for how powerful it is. And this is where the ideal of essential home backup really starts to shine. It gives you the ability to power the things that you actually need without overdoing it. Now, this one accepts 1,000 watts of solar, so you can extend the powering capabilities to meet your basic needs for quite a while. Again, this is where we step into higher performance battery capacity, giving you peace of mind if the grid were to go down. All right, now we'll talk about Tier 5. We'll talk about over 7,000 watts of AC output. This is really what you would consider your most powerful essential home backup option. And we'll go over this point by discussing the Jackery 5000 Plus. This is the most powerful option that we'll discuss in this video. And while it technically falls outside the essential home backup category, I wanted to show it to you so that you can see what extreme resiliency looks like. With nearly 5,100 watt hours of capacity and 7,200 watts of AC output, this device is built to run your kitchen or even parts of your home. And if you've got it hooked up to a smart transfer switch, you can power quite a lot. It also supports 120 volts or 240 volts UPS switchover, and if you chain two of these together, you can expand up to 60 kilowatt hours. Now, combined with solar, expansion batteries, and a second unit, that's enough for a couple of weeks of off-grid power in the right conditions, moving you into really the whole home backup territory. Now, that being said, it's a high budget option, and you don't really need this unless you're serious about powering a lot of things during an extended outage. But I wanted you to see what's possible if you want to go all in. Okay, I know we're still at the conceptual level, but I hope this walkthrough will give you a much clearer picture of what each tier is capable of. Remember, don't just look at the specs. Think about your specific needs, your lifestyle, and your budget. Again, stick around because we'll tie this all together in a moment when we present the calculator we built to help you understand all this. So let's get going. Costs versus capability. All right, let's talk about something that doesn't really get mentioned enough in these kinds of videos. Costs versus capability. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, well, the more I spend, the better off I'll be. And while that can be true in some cases, it's not always the most brilliant move, especially when it comes to solar generators. Here's a reality. Every one of these units I've shown you so far fits into a specific use case. And your job is to find the one that fits your specific needs, not the most expensive one, or the one with the longest list of features. Again, in a moment, we'll go over a tool to see what these units are capable of. Let's break this down with some ballpark figures. Jackery Explorer 300, around $300 to $500. This is great for keeping your phone, lights, and Wi-Fi running during short outages or trips. It's lightweight, super portable, and doesn't require a big investment to get started. Then you step up to the Jackery 1000 version 2, around $800 to $1,000. And this is where you start getting into meaningful backup for things like routers, laptops, and even short-term fridge use if paired with solar. Then you can look at something like the Jackery 2000 version 2. Units like this usually will cost around $1,500 to $1,800. And these are a solid step for powering multiple devices at once. Think about things like fans, lights, and TVs for 1 or 2 days. Then you get into the Jackery HP 3000. Units like this will usually go around about $2,000 to $2,800 depending on features. This is where you get into a really advanced backup solution before you start stepping into higher prices. It can cover the basics in your kitchen or an extended RV trip, and it gives you app control and smart features. Finally, we step up to something large like the Jackery 5000 Plus. These can start at around $4,500 to $5,000, and once you get into something like a smart transfer switch integration or pairing multiple units, you're looking at around $10,000 just to get started. And this is a whole home resiliency solution. It's not an entry-level backup, but obviously it's extremely capable. Now, you don't need to go straight to the top. Coming up next, we'll show you how to take everything we've covered so far and tie it all together using a tool I built to calculate your needs and match them with the right generator. What can I power with these? A few times in the video, I explained that I'm going to present a spreadsheet tool here at the end of the video. It's a calculator to help you understand how to calculate how much one of these solar generators can power and for how long. So what I'm going to do is I'll go over the spreadsheet with you really quickly. If you want to download this, this is a free tool. There's going to be a link below to access this, to get this so you can begin to play around with it. So what we'll do is we'll look here on my desktop. The first action you're going to have to take is go to File, Make a Copy. Now, this is going to require you have a Google Drive or some type of Gmail account. If you have any type of account where you can go and log in and post a comment on a YouTube video or log into your Gmail account, then you have a Google Drive. If you're not sure how to access that, just go to Google and type in, how do I access Google Drive? And it will show you. What you have to do is make a copy of this and store it on your Google Drive. Okay, or you can obviously download it to your desktop as well if you have some type of like Excel spreadsheet tool or whatever it is you want to use. So having said that, let's go ahead and look at running through a practical example of the Jackery version 2. And I've got one here in front of me. It's actually powering my laptop. I was low on power, so I'm using it at the moment. We're going to run through the numbers and we'll understand how this calculator works. And then it will help you to determine, and you can look, by the way, we've got all the different solar generators that we've reviewed. We've got a lot of them in here, all the big manufacturers, and they're all listed in the spreadsheet. So if you want to go through and look at any of the other ones, you'll be able to use this calculator to help you. So we've got the Jackery 2000 version 2 here loaded up. So how does this work? Well, what you do is on the left side, we've got this column A through E. And what this is devices to power that you want to power. So we've talked about multiple times in the video, hey, make sure you understand what you need to power. The most common things are things like refrigerator, some lights, maybe your cell phone if the grid goes down. Now you may have other needs and that's okay. This tool will allow you to help understand that. So what you'll do is you'll go through, and if you look here on column A, this is a device you want to power. Maybe it's something like a refrigerator or a toaster or a TV. And what we did is we preloaded values for common runtime, or rather the watts per hour. if you were to run this for an hour, how many watts is this going to require? Now, remember, if you go back earlier in the video, we talked about watt hours, watts, and surge watts as well. We've got that here in column C. Some things like, any device has a motor. It has an initial surge, a draw. That's going to be high. And these devices, they have certain ratings for that surge. Then in column D, you've got the number of devices, so you can choose that. And then column E is how long do you want to power that device? So let's look at a practical example. The most common one that I see, when people are asking, well, what can I power if the grid goes down, which is a refrigerator. Again, we're going to look at Jackery 2000 here, and we've got this already loaded up on our screen. Now, if I scroll down, you'll see here, I've got a refrigerator. And it says dorm, this is a small refrigerator. If you want to get like your freezer or a standard 18 cubic foot refrigerator, tell you what, let me turn the dorm refrigerator to 0. And let's go through and look at a typical 18 cubic foot refrigerator. Let's say, remember earlier in the video, we said a common power outage is about 5.5 hours. So let's just go ahead and round that up to 6. Or I'm sorry, I chose the wrong value, didn't I? This column D is for the number of refrigerators. So we have 1. So the time, again, for, and we said 5 hours, so 5.5. I'm going to round that up to 6. All right, so what does this tell us? This refrigerator, on average, an American refrigerator, give or take, is going to pull about 100 watts in a given hour. They're all going to be different. The average, again, it depends on so many variables, but let's just say, to be safe, 100 watts, watt hours each hour. So we're going to say, we want to run this refrigerator for 6 hours. It pulls 100 watts each hour, surges 1,000. And if we come over here, you'll see that it's going to pull 600 watt hours over the course of 6 hours. So what does that tell us? What does that mean? Well, if we scroll down and we look at these values, now you'll see here the largest device running. If we have multiple devices that we select on our spreadsheet, it's going to go through and it's going to tell you, oh, this device over here is the largest one. We're only running one, so it's only got one to deal with. The largest surge running. And again, since we're only using one, in this case, a refrigerator, it's going through and it identified that refrigerator as having the highest surge. Now, if you were to go and select a different one like a washing machine, and let's just say this one right here, we're going to say it for 1 hour, you'll notice these values change because the washing machine has the largest surge, more than the refrigerator. So let's just go ahead and pull the washing machine out for now. So let's go ahead and go back to our example of refrigerator. So surge, if all devices are on, again, this is calculating if you have multiple devices on, if you were to turn them all at the same time, what is a surge? Going to be at that moment. Typically what you want to do is plug in one device at a time, especially when there's surge. You don't want to plug in everything at once. If there's going to be multiple surges, that will trip the unit out. Total running watts needed while running all the devices you've selected. In this case, 675. And then again, we've selected, oh, there is one other I forgot about. It's right here. Look at that laptop computer. Let's just bump that down to 0. And I was like, why did we get 675? Because we had the laptop. Again, let's just isolate to refrigerator. Okay, so now that value's come down to 600. Then maximum surge capability. Again, this can do 4,400. We've already inputted these values for you. You're not going to find that. This is all done for you. Recommended running watts. Remember we talked about earlier in the video, you want to run it at about 50% of what it can do. Ours can output 2,200 watts. So we're saying on average, you want to go about 1,100 watts, continuously. So capacity of solar generator. And again, we inputted these values for all the units that we tested. We did the homework for you. This one can hold 2,042 watt hours, nearly 2,100 watt hours. And then AC efficiency. What happens is we test these units out to see what their efficiency is. This one's about 89%, which is pretty good. And again, what this now tells us is that the watts capacity remaining after we've run the refrigerator for 6 hours based on all the values is 1,360 watt hours. So I don't know, off the top of my head, what is that, about 65, 70% of the battery is going to be left after 6 hours? So what does that tell us? Well, let's just say we're anticipating not 6 hours, but 12 hours. Let's just double that time. All right, now we bumped it up to 1,200 watts that we're pulling. Coming down here, we've now got 693 watts left, or watt hours left, excuse me. So let's go back up here and bump that up to, you know what? Let's just say it's going to be out, the power is going to be out for a day, 24 hours. Now you notice something, it just turned red. Why is that? Because now we've overshot the capacity of this battery. That means this will not be able to power a refrigerator that pulls 100 watt hours each hour. Because in 24 hours, that's going to be 2,400 watt hours. This only has a capacity of 2,042 watt hours. So we've now shot over. So this calculator, if you begin to play around with all the other solar generators, there's a lot of manufacturers in here. They're not all Jackeries. We got EcoFlow, Anchor, Blue Eddy, you name them, they're in here. If you go through, you're going to quickly see what each one of these units can power for how long. And this will help you decide what's the best option for you. Now, again, what I would encourage you to do is change these numbers. You may find that your refrigerator is more efficient. I think the one at my house runs about 75 watt hours each hour. That being the case, yeah, I could actually power my home refrigerator with this one right here. We had 100 in there because we were kind of pulling some different ones out there. So again, my encouragement is to just play around with this, change these values, the number of devices. We're going to bump all these down to 0. Let me just put laptop. Again, let's look at a laptop. Does it really pull a lot? And let's just say we want to power a laptop for 24 hours. Maybe you are going and traveling somewhere. And so again, if we scroll down, let me see, back to the Jackery 2000 version 2. Yeah, it can actually power it, obviously, for that time frame. So having said that, play around with this calculator. It's free. You can download it. We'll put a link to it below. And again, the goal here is to determine what you need to power for how long. And this will quickly tell you whether this unit or any other unit is going to be able to do it for you. Final thoughts. All right, we've covered a lot up to this point, and I know it may feel overwhelming, but I hope you can utilize the spreadsheet we provided in the previous point, as it's really a great starting point. So here's how I would summarize this video. If you're prepping on a budget, I'd recommend looking at something comparable to the 300 or 1000 model I have in front of me. Remember, there's a lot of options on the market, and I've listed the ones that I've tested in the spreadsheet, and they're all good options. And these really give you the most essential coverage, keeping your phone charged, staying online, lighting your space without breaking the bank. But here's the thing, a smaller unit you can afford now is way better than a dream setup you might buy someday. The goal is to get started, get something that gives you peace of mind now, and expand it over time if you want to. Now, if you want more power and portability and are considering powering something more than just the basics, then units comparable to the ones here in front of me, they're gonna handle most of your basic needs if the grid were to go down. Again, remember what I said earlier in the video with these types of units? Strongly consider solar panels to extend the power you'll want. If you're lucky, the outage will be short, but if you're not, then you're going to want to have panels to charge these up. Lastly, if you want something that can power multiple lines in your home and provide power for days or even weeks with solar panels and proper rationing of your power usage, something like the Jackery 5000 would work well. I created a video last year comparing these larger models and the considerations you need to make before purchasing one of them. I also did a dedicated video review of this model, and I'm going to link to it below. Remember, it's not about having the largest unit with the highest wattage. It's about having the right tool for the job and knowing exactly what you can and can't power. All right, so let's announce the giveaway. I'm going to be giving away this Jackery 1000 unit away in 1 month from the time that I release this video. I'll post a link to a giveaway form below. All you have to do is just fill out the form, and in 1 month, we're going to email the winner. No one can access these email addresses except for our team. We don't sell them to vendors. This is just our way of saying thank you for watching this video to the very end. In 1 month from now, we'll randomly draw a winner and send an email to you. Again, thanks for watching this video. So I hope it helped you out. I know we've covered a lot, but if you can get the concepts that we laid out and use the tools that we provide in the spreadsheet, you're going to be an educated buyer. As always, stay safe out there.